The UK says it is sending 20,000 troops to take part in upcoming NATO exercises across Europe. They'll be some of the alliance's biggest exercises since the Cold War. The British Defence Secretary says they will provide vital reassurance after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Meantime, Ukraine is claiming a new victory over Russia. The Ukrainian military says it downed 2 Russian aircraft over the Azov Sea. CNN's Fred Pleiken is in eastern Ukraine with the latest for us. Look, at a time where Ukraine saw delays in securing its military aid, you've got this 20,000 strong NATO force that is going to be embarking on these exercises. Ukraine also saying that it had a victory in the Azov Sea. Give me a sense of where we stand right now, and importantly, Russia's reaction to all of this.
Hi there, Eleni. Well, the Russians so far haven't reacted at all to the news that the Ukrainians put out alleging that they had downed these 2 electronic surveillance planes. And these are really important planes for the Russians and certainly big victories for the Ukrainians if all of this holds true. One of these planes, called an A-50 Beriev, which is essentially a big cargo plane with a lot of electronics inside and a big radar dish on top. That's essentially a command and control post, but also an electronic surveillance radar plane as well, which the Ukrainians say has been helping the Russians to conduct a lot of their area campaign inside Ukraine, to target areas, but also to lead jets to areas that planes would then target. Now, so far, the Ukrainians are saying that 2 planes were destroyed, but it seems as though they're couching that a little bit now, because there was a second plane called an IL-22, which is essentially a flying command post. It's an older plane, but also one that's full of a lot of electronics. The Russians don't have a lot of that. One of the things that we've attained now, Eleni, is what appears to be an escorting Russian jet fighter talking to a control tower inside Russia, saying that this plane has said that it has trouble and that it needs to make an emergency landing. I want to listen into that very quickly.
82-014, просил борт передать срочную информацию, 75, 106, его подбили, посадка в Анапе планирует, срочно нужна скорая и пожарная машина.
So the Russians have since then put out a still image of what appears to be the tailpiece of that airplane. That's something that was on social media. So far, it's unverified whether or not that is actually that IL-22. But right now, the Ukrainians are saying that one plane was completely destroyed, but the other one appears to have made an emergency landing. The Ukrainians believe that that plane suffered substantial damage, might be beyond repair, but it seems as though it was able to make an emergency landing. Nevertheless, the Ukrainians are saying that this is hugely significant for them. They're saying this operation took place in the Azov Sea, which itself is quite remarkable because it's pretty far away from anywhere where the Ukrainians would have any sorts of air defenses. Again, so far, the Russians not commenting on the matter at all. At the same time, though, you can hear from Kiev, from senior Ukrainian military officials saying this was a successful and very important operation for them, Eleni.
Right, Fred Pleiken, always great to see you. Thank you.
The UK is expected to send some 20,000 forces to take part in one of NATO's largest deployments since the end of the Cold War.
Britain's Defence Minister is set to announce the plans later today. The deployment is expected to include military forces from 30 NATO countries, plus Sweden, as part of a measure to show the military bloc's resolve against Russian President Vladimir Putin and other regional threats. Claire is with us. It's a huge number, 20,000, for quite a small military.
Yeah, I worked it out. It's about 15% or so of the combined full-time professional Army, Navy and Air Force. So it's pretty big. And given that NATO has already pre-announced this exercise and said that it would encompass some 40,000 troops, this signals that the UK is planning to send about half of that. We don't know if other countries will step up commitments and things like that. But it is big. The exercise is big. NATO has called it the biggest collective defence deployment since the end of the Cold War. Obviously, the point of this is that the war in Ukraine is ongoing, and the warnings have been stepping up that if Ukraine cannot fend off Putin, that Putin might go further. This is what Grant Shapps says in his statement, that this will provide vital reassurance against the Putin menace. But look, the UK is facing multiple challenges now to its military on multiple fronts, not just the sort of defence industry challenge of providing more and more equipment to Ukraine. We just saw that £2.5 billion, some $3 billion commitment last week for the next couple of years. But now, of course, with the Red Sea and the UK taking part in those attacks on targets in Yemen with the US, and we're set to hear from Rishi Sunak later on today, he will have to face the Commons on that issue. Of course, the first time he's authorised a military deployment as Prime Minister, so it'll be a big moment for him, and I'm sure he'll face questions as well about the UK's participation in these NATO exercises.
OK. Claire, thank you.